So Israel Adesanya has just hinted at his comeback in 2024. Just 2 days after I made a video saying that Israel Adesanya could main event UFC 300 or co-main it if he were to make a comeback in 2024. Coincidence? Yes, most definitely a coincidence. I can't believe that happened so close together. That's kind of cool. But before I talk about who I believe he should fight, who should welcome him back from his little baby retirement, please consider a like, comment, subscribe. If you're already subscribed, hit the bell icon. Really helps me in the algorithm. And with that out of the way, let's get started. So, Israel Adesanya. Where am I getting this information? He said in an interview, 2027, I can't believe any of you guys actually believed in that. He said something else, but I don't want to get demonetized. He's coming back soon. That's what he ended up saying. Now, and to be fair, if you actually believed him when he said that he's coming back in 2027, you might want to get tested. Like, that is actual career suicide. I think he just threw out a year just to make fun of John Jones. Now, who do I think should welcome him? Let me give you the 4 potential welcome fights that I would give Israel Adesanya. And these are people that either have history, have called him out, or could sell. Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, Alex Pereira, and Hamzat Shamayev. I'm going to go through these, and I'm going to end off. We're going to go from least likely to most likely in terms of how do I think these would go. Let's go with least likely. Sean Strickland. Listen, the UFC tried to justify giving Israel Adesanya another immediate title shot directly following that fight. They eventually had to drop it and give it to Dricus because you can't justify giving it to Hamzat and you can't justify to give it to Israel, so you kind of have to give it to Dricus du Plessis. They didn't want to give it to him, but they ended up having to give it to him. So I think Sean Strickland is an absolute no unless there is no option. The problem is there are options at that division. You have Dricus du Plessis, who's already fighting Sean Strickland. You have Jared Cannonier, who is arguably the #1 contender because he has a win over Sean Strickland that Israel doesn't even have. And you have Hamzat Shamayev, who honestly is only 1 fight away, and I think they're going to do Hamzat Shamayev versus Jared Cannonier, but we'll get to that near the end of the video. So I think Sean Strickland is the absolute least likely. Second least likely, I guess, is Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis has been training with Israel Adesanya. And I think this is kind of Israel's way. Like, Alex trained Sean Strickland right before he fought Israel Adesanya. So I guess Israel is training Dricus right before he fights Sean Strickland. I think that's part of it. I also believe a lot of the beef between Dricus and Adesanya was manufactured by the UFC. Like, I never really bought that beef because it was such a weird thing to beef about. So I don't think the Dricus versus Israel fight is very likely, especially now because of the training footage that is coming out. And unless Dricus just goes on the mic and absolutely flames Israel Adesanya, I don't. It's not that interesting to me, honestly. That was the only thing that would have sold the fight to me when I said it in the Israel Adesanya UFC 300 video, but I don't think that's going to happen. Now, we got our last 2 candidates, the only 2 fighters that I believe could sell a fight with Israel Adesanya, worthy of it being on the UFC 300 card. And that is Hamzat Shamayev. Hamzat Shamayev is the dude that's calling the fight Israel right now. Now, if you're new to the sport, or if you've been watching the sport for a while and you watch some of the matchups that have been made and you've wondered to yourself, why did they just make that fight? That doesn't make any sense. This is what you got to understand. If you want to know if a fight is going to be made or what fights are going to be made, look at it like this. What does fighter A have to gain from this? What does fighter B have to gain from this? And what does the UFC have to gain from this? Let me give you an example. Israel Adesanya is fighter A. He is the dude that is going to bring most of the numbers when him and Hamzat fight. Fighter B is Hamzat Shamayev. What does Israel have to gain here? If he beats Hamzat Shamayev, he just took a lot of the star power that Hamzat has, derailed the hype train of Hamzat Shamayev, and gets a title shot at middleweight. I mean, that's the only logical conclusion you can come to. Then you have the financial, but Israel is already making crazy money. And if we're talking about UFC 300, I don't think this could headline a UFC 300 card. So we're not even talking crazy pay-per-views. So that... Oh, and yeah. What does the UFC have to gain from this? If Hamzat wins, Hamzat gets a lot of hype, gets to fight for the title, and potentially becomes a superstar for the UFC. And the UFC just wants to make the most money possible. This fight makes a lot of money. Hamzat gets to gain star power and a title shot. Israel Adesanya gets star power and a title shot. But he doesn't need star power. He's already a star for the UFC. And he already makes a lot of money. He's guaranteed this. So that's why I don't think this fight works. Because everything that Hamzat can offer Israel can get in another matchup minus the risk of getting an early retirement. Because if he loses to Hamzat, we really are talking about Israel Adesanya on a 2-fight skid. And now he has 2 fights before he becomes champion. And now he can't fight Alex Pereira. Now let's look at an Alex Pereira matchup. Fighter A, Israel Adesanya. Fighter B, Alex Pereira, and the UFC. What do each of them have to gain from this? Israel Adesanya gets an immediate title shot at the division that he always wanted to. He gets a load of money in fighting Alex Pereira. He gets to settle the beef with Alex Pereira. And if he wins, the notoriety that he is going to get as the light heavyweight champion of the world, the dude who beat Alex Pereira twice, one time at almost his natural weight class, is going to be crazy. I will give him credit for that. And the ability to let the world forget about Alex Pereira beating him. I mean, that, like it or not, that's what it would do. What does Alex Pereira have to gain from this? An ability to settle the score with Israel Adesanya. Israel is the only dude that's been able to KO him in his MMA career. Emoted on his unconscious body and made his kid cry. I would want that back. Vengeance. That's one. So a load of money, vengeance, a title defense at light heavyweight, an ability to build a legacy, and I think some pay-per-view points. I don't know how much Alex Pereira cares about money, but he would make an absolute killing fighting Israel Adesanya. And he has the advantage. Alex Pereira has an advantage at 205 over Israel Adesanya because Israel hasn't been out long enough to build enough weight to be healthy at 205. I don't think so. So Alex Pereira has a lot to gain here, but so does Israel. I think this fight is the most likely. And what does the UFC have to gain from this? They get a lot of money, man. Like, this makes more money than every other fight, easily. This makes more money than Dricus du Plessis and Sean Strickland combined. This does crazy numbers. It hypes up UFC 300. Like, you have Yuri Prohaska fighting on this card. You have, in this kit scenario, Alex Pereira fighting Israel Adesanya. Now that I'm hearing that Hamzat wants in, and Hamzat has fought during Ramadan before, you could do Hamzat Shamayev versus Jared Cannonier on the same card with Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler. That is a great card. The UFC is going to gain a lot from an Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya fight. And when you see what is the potential gain of a fight for everybody involved, that's the fight that is most likely going to be made. The UFC will bend reason as long as the fans and the company makes money out of this. I mean, not the fans, but the fans get enjoyment out of their money for it. That's the fight that I believe is going to be made. And the reason that I said retirement versus a little break is a key difference. Israel Adesanya never retired. He's still in the USADA pool. There is nothing stopping the UFC tomorrow saying Israel Adesanya is going to be fighting on UFC 300 fighting da-da-da-da or da-da-da-da. There's nothing stopping them. There's a reason that Michael Chandler versus Conor McGregor hasn't been made, and I might make a separate video about that, but spoiler alert, USADA is still technically partnered with the UFC, and I don't think they can legally say Conor McGregor's fighting, or if they do, USADA can legally say he hasn't been tested. He hasn't passed the USADA testing pool to be able to fight, and that's one of the biggest reasons USADA is no longer going to be a part of the UFC going forward past January. I think that fight's going to get announced halfway through January. Maybe, if they want to be petty, a day after USADA's contract runs through, and that's what they're going to do. So, UFC 300, I think, is going to be a very good card. Israel Adesanya. I keep saying it, and I know some people are going to say this is your third video talking about this fight. This is me lobbying for this fight. MMA Guru lobbied for Dricus to fight Sean Strickland. I am lobbying for the trilogy of Alex Pereira and Israel Adesanya so we can finally close this book in the biggest way possible on UFC 300. I don't understand how that's a bad thing. Everybody's getting paid here. But if you think I'm wrong and Israel Adesanya should fight somebody different on his return, put in the comment section below and give a reasoning. I'll go through these comments and we can talk in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, please consider a like, comment, subscribe. It means the absolute most to me. And one video announcement before I let you go. The MMA Iceberg, the video that I've been hyping up for the end of the month, I am going to start that right after this video. And you should expect that maybe on Christmas Day. Maybe I do it on Christmas Eve. You never know. I'm really excited for this video. It's looking like a two-parter because it is going to be an hour-long video. I'm thinking 2 parts. First part releases either Christmas Eve or Christmas, and the second part I'll release near the end of the year. So keep an eye out for that. And with that out of the way, adios, guys.